Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, councilors. Tonight, I'm presenting a request for vacating public right-of-way. The request was presented by Stephen Farley. He lives adjacent to the area that we are the vacation in question. It's located between E&F Street and Lincoln and Howard Street, just north of Homestead Street. The area in question was a 20-foot wide right-of-way located on the far west side of the Homestead Edition. This is a copy of the replat of Homestead Edition, along with part of the Moore Street plat. This is D Street down here at the bottom of the plat. This is the center of the section line, runs all the way up here. The area in question is this orange spot right here. Homestead Street runs approximately in this area right here. Oops, I'm sorry, up too far. This is a blow-up of the area. Mr. Farley's property is in this pink boundary. As you can see, he already owns part of the old alley that was replatted with Bowers Edition. This 20-foot alley actually ends right here now. Down here it joins up with Moore Street, which was dedicated by the adjoining subdivision. And this 20 feet extends all the way down to D Street. Mr. Farley owns all the property within the pink. I'll show you a orthophoto of the area. Mr. Farley's residence is right here. His shop is back here, and he owns all that property inclusive. F Street is in this area. The Glenwood Village PUD is this area. This map is, the red squiggly lines are the subdivision boundaries. This is what's left of the Homestead plat. Bowers was a replat, Troutman's was a replat, and Homestead was dedicated after the fact. This subdivision was originally Groats Edition. It was replatted as Mountain View Edition. Mountain View Edition only came to this line right there. And then this is the dividing line between the two subdivisions. The 50 feet of Moore Street was dedicated during Mountain View. The 20 feet was dedicated with the Homestead Edition. This map I created to try to explain reversion of property. The right-of-way in a platted subdivision is dedicated for public use. The public doesn't buy it, they don't purchase it, they don't receive a warranty deed for it. It's literally turned over to the governing road district, public works department, or county highway district for them to maintain for public use as a street. The dark areas, for example, this pink lot, they actually still own an underlying title to this property. In this case, since it's centered in a plat, the original subdivider owned both sides of the street, so he retained an underlying interest to the center of the street. The subsequent owners inherited this ownership. In this instance here, this entire 50-foot right-of-way was dedicated from this developer, so his interest actually carries to his previous property line. In this case, on this side of the street, the entire 20 feet of right-of-way was dedicated from the Homestead addition, so the purchasers of these properties would still have an underlying interest out to the center of the road, or the edge of the plat boundary. So in most cases, the state code says that if right-of-way is dedicated, it should be divided half to each side of the road, and this is what they're talking about. Half goes to each side because originally that was all owned by the same person. This is an exception, and we have followed this exception previously. One example would be the old plat of Section 16, east of Mountain View for 6th Street. It went straight, continued straight up over past where the water tower or the water tank is. That was deemed to be not necessary with the plats. So 6th Street right-of-way was vacated, and since it all came out of the property to the south, it was given back to the property to the south. So if the council does deem that the right-of-way, it's in the best interest to vacate the right-of-way, we're suggesting that it be given back to the properties that dedicated originally. I have some photographs. We're looking at the property in question. This edge of the asphalt here is roughly the line between the 50 feet of right-of-way and the 20 feet of right-of-way. The 20 feet being this area, the 50 feet being this area here. As you can see, it drops off quite sharply right here. This is looking across the end of the street toward Mr. Farley's residence. You can faintly see the end of the asphalt in front of this truck. That basically is the end of the Moore Street right-of-way, and that's where we're suggesting that the dedication end in the alley right there, we would retain the alley along the Moore Street right-of-way. This is looking east. Again, this is the end of the right-of-way here, about where the sign is, and you can see the driveway would not be affected. They would still have frontage on the Moore Street right-of-way. This is a good reason, a view of why we didn't want to vacate all the way to Homestead, is because if the sidewalk gets extended, we would need this area. The curb line here is about the line between the 20 feet and the 50 feet. So this is in the 20-foot alley here. Okay, that's all I had as far as presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ron. Council, have any questions for Ron before we open the public hearing? Tim?
You showed us the topography to the east, but would you describe to the council the topography to the north?
Certainly. This area here is the 20 feet. It's heavily vegetated. There's some good-sized trees you can see in the background, and it does fall off. As you can see, the driveway going back to the shop, there's a fairly steep grade going down in there. In this ground, it's difficult to see, but it does drop off considerably, not only to the north, but it also falls off to the east. As you can see, there's the tops of the roofs down here. So it's quite steep, and once it gets past the end of this existing right-of-way that had already been platted, it gets even much more steep. Does that answer? Okay.
Are there any other questions for Ron? Walter?
Thank you, ma'am. Ron, can you go back to one of the plat maps, please? No, before. One more before. One more. That one. Thank you.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying about which subdivision plat this particular proposed vacation alley originated. I understand that. But that notwithstanding, the Idaho statute that governs vacation of streets and reversion of vacated streets states that, provided further, that whenever any street, avenue, alley, or lane shall be vacated, the same shall revert to the owner of the adjacent real estate, one half on each side thereof. And before the city attorney says I didn't finish the sentence, I will acknowledge that, and I will finish it. But with that part of the sentence, my question is going to be this property owner, and this property owner, which are the three adjacent to the proposed vacation. And finishing that statement in the state code says, or as the city council deems in the best interest of the adjoining properties. And as I understand this, we're being asked to deem it in the best interest of the adjoining properties to vacate this property to the owner to the west, that owner right there. I have no problem with that, but I would not want the three property owners on the opposite side to turn up in a year and contest why we did that. Have they been properly, the owners of the property, not the occupants, but the owners, notified that this is being under consideration?
Yes, all the owners within a 300-foot radius were sent certified letters informing them of the public hearing and what it was for.
Okay, thank you.
Randy, did you want to add anything to that? No. Okay. Other questions for Ron? Thank you for your presentation.